I'm driving Dave's Squadra Corsa right now. He's out of town, he's on vacation, lucky guy. So he's got me running his errands. We've got to drop off his Squadra Corsa at PFS for a full PPF rack. So we're gonna drop this thing off, and then we've got some errands to run. We gotta pick up some stuff we need for the F12, and then we gotta get back to the shop and check out the F12. We know there's an issue with it. How big of an issue, we're not sure yet, but we gotta dive into that. We drop this thing off, get back to the shop. What's up, guys? All right, so we just pulled in and I spotted something over here that got me pretty excited. Looks like a brand new 992 Cup car. I gotta check this thing out. I love these cars. So I've driven a ton of Porsches and a ton of the Cup cars and GT3R race cars. And this is the newest, coolest one they have out right now that you can actually buy from Porsche. Yeah, like this thing is fresh. It hasn't even hit the track yet. Brand new rotors, brand new pad. So sick, massive Brembo brakes. I'm not sure exactly how much these cost, but I think they're somewhere in the neighborhood of $350,000 to $400,000. Really, really great race cars. And for the technology you get, the price is actually pretty fair. They're super fast on track. All right, check this out. This is a full dry carbon door. Look at that thing. It's so light. I think it's really, really cool. So they actually make these cars at Porsche. So they take a car off of the line that's gonna be a street car and it goes to the race division, basically just the shell, and then they start building the roll cage and put all of the race parts on it, which is pretty cool. I mean, check out that steering wheel. It looks like part of a video game simulator, right? So cool. Now I wanna drive it. This car is absolutely amazing, but before I get sidetracked, we need to give these guys the keys to the Squadra Corsa, get this thing dropped off here. Then we got an errand to run. We got to get over and we got to get some stuff for the F12, and then we got to get back to the shop and start working on the F12. We do have an issue with it. We're not sure how serious it is. We got to check it out. We got to get to the bottom of it as soon as possible. But for now, give them the keys to this thing. Let's grab an Uber and get out of here. All right. Dropped off the Squadra Corsa, went back to the shop, we grabbed the truck, and now we're here at Sparco. So on the F12, it's actually a really nice steering wheel, but it's not great for drifting or sliding around. So it's got these flat spots on it. So as the wheel is passing through your hand, it's not smooth, it's kind of bumping around, not ideal. Now I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this, but my idea is to basically take a Sparco steering wheel and adapt all of the electronics from the factory wheel onto the Sparco wheel. It's gonna be a challenge, but it's something that I wanna get started on sooner than later to decide if we're gonna keep a stock wheel, if I have to try to adapt all those parts into something on the dash, or if I can actually integrate it into the steering wheel. So we'll pop in here, find a steering wheel that's gonna work for us, and then we'll head back to the shop and we'll check out the F12. All right, so as you can see, they have a lot of options. No two cars are the same, and different drivers like different size wheels, different styles. Sometimes you need a dished wheel, sometimes a flat wheel is the only one that's gonna work. I think for this project, a flat wheel is gonna work better because that cluster that's on the steering wheel is gonna be a lot easier to adapt to a flat wheel than to a dished wheel, I think. We also need something that's a little bit bigger. So if it's too small of a wheel, all those controls won't fit in there and you won't have anywhere to put your hands. All right, so I think that this wheel is gonna work the best. So it's actually a 380 millimeter wheel, which is probably very close to the factory Ferrari wheel. I prefer a 350 or 360 millimeter wheel, but trying to adapt all of those electronics on there aren't gonna work with a smaller wheel. So I think this is the one that we need. He went in the back to go grab us a steering wheel, so he's gonna come back with that. And I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of other stuff that we need from Sparco. But for now, we're just gonna grab this steering wheel.
Get it out real quick, just make sure.
Yeah, let's see. Oh yeah. Well, they give you different options for the horn. So you want a blue one, a black one. I think there's a yellow one in there. There's a silver one. I think that's the one. And if it doesn't work, we'll just get another one. We'll try again. So the Sparco steering wheel is just the first piece to a massive puzzle that is a custom race car build. So that F12 does have quite a few mods on it, right? It's twin turboed, it's wild, but it was all factory drivetrain. It was bolt-on coilovers, that's about it. we're taking this thing to not just the next level, but 10 levels up. It's gonna be a huge transformation. I wanna get started on a lot of things and trying to just basically pace everything and put everything in the right order to how the parts are gonna start coming in. When you're building a race car, there's so many things that you have to plan for. There's so many parts that you need, especially on a custom thing like this where no one's ever done this before. So trying to figure out everything that we need and start sourcing all of those parts, it takes a long time. I'm able to do it fairly well because I've built a lot of race cars, but the Ferrari is completely new to me. We did the 550, but that was also not a huge transformation. We did a lot of body work on it. We did suspension stuff. We did some more steering angle. We did exhaust. We did a lot of custom sheet metal, roll cage. So fairly big build, but the F12 is gonna be steps above that. And to find all these parts that are gonna work on this car, on a car that I've never taken apart before or even really worked on. I sat in the F12, I haven't even driven the car before. There are so many components that need to be thought through. Every part has to work together, and we have to integrate all of these parts into the factory electronics, which Gintani is gonna help us out with. He said he should be able to do it, but if we get this whole project put together and then he can't make it run, there's gonna be some big issues. That's gonna set us back a ton. All right, first piece to the race car puzzle. I'm really excited about this build. I'm also really nervous right now because of this issue that we have. I can't really get it out of my mind. We need to sort this problem out as soon as possible so that we can get on with the rest of this build. So you saw us pull this F12 apart last time. You also saw that we have a dead turbo. Now, at first I didn't really think much about this, just bad turbo, but thinking about it more, we could have engine damage that caused this turbo to die. These are brand new turbos. If we have engine damage, that could stop this project completely. It's gonna put us over budget and way past our deadline to get this thing done. We gotta sort this issue out immediately. All right, so let's break down what could possibly fail on a turbo. So we've got the compressor housing that's basically sucking the air in. If debris gets in here, it can kill that compressor wheel and it can also stop the turbo from spinning. Same thing on the backside. We've got the turbine housing. This gets fed directly by the exhaust. So engine internally, combustion, exhaust is coming out past the valves and going through here. If there's any debris in there that hits the turbine wheel, that could kill the turbo. The main point here is the oiling system. There's a shaft that runs through the center that connects the compressor and the turbine wheel together, and that's fed by the engine oil. So main engine oil pump is feeding oil into the turbos and then it's draining back down into the oil pan. If we have a lack of oiling, that could mean that we have a second turbo that's going out as well. If we have debris going through the turbo and coming out of the bottom of the turbo, that means that the oil in the engine has debris, and that's the oil that feeds all the bearings for the crankshaft, everything inside of the engine. There could be a serious issue here. I'm really hoping that it's just an issue with the turbo and not the engine. So I don't want to have to take this whole engine out, tear it down, and figure out what's going on internally. So let me talk to Alex about what could fail on this turbo, something in the oiling system, whatever it might be. I'll get his feedback before we start tearing this car apart. There we go.
Oh, well, I have the pleasure of speaking to the FD champion, Mike Essa.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, well, could be better. We got one of the turbos on the F12 died. I can't really see where the oil feed lines come from. Are they both like teed off, so they both run together?
They come from the oil filter housing and then they're teed off and then go to obviously the top and feed it from there.
Yep.
I don't even think that thing, it just has reducers that are built into the turbo. Unless one of those reducers got clogged, something got in there, that could have for sure had it, you know, not being able to give the correct, you know,
amount of oil, yeah.
But if something got in there and it clogged it, we got a problem. Or if, I don't know, if the oil pressure on the car has an issue or something like that.
This thing is like maxed out on the fuel system. If we have a lean cylinder, could we have melted a spark plug, melted an exhaust valve, and that debris could have gone through the back of the turbo and caused the damage?
It's a possibility. In my opinion, I think it's some kind of oiling issue.
Yeah, I hope so, because dude, if there's some damage in the engine, this project's gonna be so far over budget and time. Not even funny.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, hopefully, because we have a car that will basically not move under its own power until we get that sorted. So, all right, I'll let you get back to work, and I'm gonna pull this turbo off, and I'll call you later and let you know what I find. All right, so after talking to Alex, he did bring up a good point that this turbo oil line is actually fairly large, but inside here there's a very, very small restrictor. So in that restrictor, the hole is probably 1/4 of a millimeter. It's super small. So if a very small piece of debris got in there, it can block all the oil to this turbo, and that will kill it really fast. So I'm hoping that that's what it is. But I'm also worried that if it is a piece of debris that got in there, where did that debris come from? It could have just been during assembly, literally a piece of sand or something that's small enough to block that hole. So if this line was open and it got a little piece of dirt in it and they plugged it in, screwed it down, tightened it up, and that debris has been floating around there and has finally killed this turbo, that's the best case scenario right now. If that debris came from the oil pan, from the oiling system inside the engine, that's a huge issue. I'm gonna pull this turbo off of here, and I hope that it was a piece that got in there during assembly. Fingers crossed, but until we get this part, we won't know. So I'm gonna grab some tools and pull this thing off. I'm gonna pull the oil feed line off, but as I was pulling off the intercooler piping and seeing all of this dirt, basically that screen that's in front of the turbo is just letting a ton of small dirt through, and that's going right into the engine. So that could be a whole separate issue. I'm gonna pull the oil line off now and see if we can figure out what's going on in there. It almost looks like it's a little milky. It's kind of white. It's definitely not clean. All right, so turbo's off. Now I'm gonna pull these housings off of it and figure out what's going on. So this thing is pretty locked up. Like, it's really, really hard to turn, and it should just like touch it. It should just spin freely. So there's definitely an issue. And looking at how dirty the inside of the compressor housing is, and knowing that all of that dirt is going from that screen in the front through the turbo, through the intercooler, and then straight into the engine and sandblasting the engine internally. Now, I would want some filters on here. I know the screens look cool, but all of that dirt is going directly into the engine. So see if we have to do something about that. It's hung up on something. It should just slide right off. What's going on? All right, this turbo is giving me a lot of trouble here, so I'm gonna grab the Ferrari tool and get it disassembled. Gotta have one of these. I'm gonna grab a bigger hammer. All right. That thing was really locked up on there. I don't see any chunks missing out of the turbine blade. So if you have debris go through, it would hit one of these blades and knock a chunk out of it or bend it, but I don't see that. Well, I don't see anything blocking that little tiny orifice in there that the oil gets fed through. I don't see anything wrong on the backside, but it's really hard to tell. Anyway, I'm gonna pull the compressor housing off now with a snap ring, see if there's anything going on with the front. If it's not that, then it's something wrong with the oil feed And if something's wrong with the oil feed, that means probably something wrong with the engine internally, with the oil pump, or there's debris that's getting sucked up from the oil pump and that went through the turbo, and I hope it's not that. Well, I don't see anything broken. It doesn't look like there's any damage here. I mean, you can see how much dirt there is inside of there. I mean, it's like, that's a lot. And that's all going through the engine. I guess we're gonna have to drain the oil and pull the filter, look for another issue, because I don't see any issues. I cleaned this bucket out and we're draining the oil directly into it, so if there is any debris, we'll be able to spot it easily. Oil looks pretty dirty. Yeah, I don't know when the last time they changed the oil on this, but it looks like it's well past. I don't see any bits of debris on that, and I think this is a magnet on the plug. We'll have to check this oil. I'll have to check the filter as well. We're gonna pull the filter out now, and fingers crossed we don't find anything in there. All right, so we're gonna let this drip a bit, drain some of the oil out of here, and then I'll actually cut this open and pull apart the filter element to see if there's any debris in any one of these little pleats in the filter. Well, I do see something shiny in there. Actually, small bits, but there's quite a bit of it. I have to pull the filter open. Yeah, there's some debris in there. Can't really tell what it is yet. There we go. Oh, shit.
What?
There's some pretty big flakes. That is not good. I don't know if that's steel or aluminum. It doesn't, that looks like it could be a piece of a bearing. Well, that is not good news. I'm gonna have to talk to Damon about this. We've ordered a lot of parts for this car already, and if we got an issue like this with the engine, I don't know what he's gonna wanna do. I don't know how much a replacement engine is for this car. I don't know parts. If we try to rebuild this engine, how long has it been like this? I don't know how long it's been since he did an oil change last. It's not a ton, but any debris is not good. And there's some pretty decent sized chunks in there. This sucks. All right, well, it looks like that turbo ultimately died from lack of oil from a piece of debris blocking that orifice. Now, I don't know if there is damage internally in the engine. If it is a piece of bearing and a bearing is failing in the engine, you can't tell, right? You can't tell from looking at the bottom of the motor. You'd have to pull the engine apart, completely disassemble it, and figure out what the issue is. The other option is put a new filter in it, put new oil in it, cross your fingers.